Hi, I'm Joshua, and I have a problem. I read 23 books last month. I'm ready to get help. Hello everybody, my name is Joshua, and I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Coffee, Cats, and King, where we will discuss books, both new and old. I will share with you pictures of my cats who will make you wish they were your cats, and I will drink enough coffee for me and everybody watching. The mug and the shirt are both familiar. It's from Famous Anthony's. It's a pretty popular restaurant here in Virginia. The shirt is from the Bad Bayside. So I have an issue. Somehow I read 23 books last month. And I don't understand where it's coming from. I didn't feel like I read a particularly large number of books. In addition to that, I work ridiculous hours. So, you know, between the hours of 6:15 and somewhere between 5:15 and 5:45, I'm working. So I don't know where all this reading comes in. I don't know where all this time comes in. But clearly, I have an issue. There's no reason that I should read over 20 books in a month. Especially a very busy month. But that's where we're at. I don't know what else to say about it. I think I need help. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm going to give you guys some cat footage.
Buddy. Chaos. Okay. Havoc. There goes Chaos. Havoc. Hi. He's so sleepy. He's trying to rest up. Let's see if we can locate Havoc.
And we're going to go on and get into the books because, dang. Okay, first book for the month is Mr. Fred Saberhagen with Specimens. This was 5 stars. Great way to start the month. This was 5 stars. Great way to start the month. Loved this book. It is science fiction, but it doesn't feel like it. Honestly, it could so easily be horror. This is basically about a man and his wife who purchase a new house. Weird things start happening in the house. He finds this odd area in the basement and opens it up. And there's this weird, almost chamber thing. And then, kind of without warning, he is possessed by something. And that something forces him to go upstairs, tell his son, hey, come down here, take a look. And then knock him over the head with something and push him into this weird jelly pod thing that sucks him up and essentially puts him in a comatose state. And the whole book from there is this poor man possessed by this thing, this entity, whatever it may be, that continues to force him to kidnap people and take him down into these pods. So, as I said, it could very easily be horror. This was just a lot of fun. It's actually pretty short. It's about 225 pages. I had a great time with this. This one took me by surprise. 5 stars. If you can pick this up and you want something in the science fiction horror realm, this is definitely a book for you. Alright, not going to spend long at all on this next one. This is Elizabeth Bear with The Chains That You Refuse. This is a short story collection, and this is actually signed, I believe. Yes, this is signed. Got it off eBay a while ago, and I ended up DNFing it halfway through. Even though it's even shorter than Specimens, I couldn't continue with it. I didn't like any of the stories really. Wasn't getting into it. It was just boring me. I didn't want to spend any more time with it. So DNF. If there are any fans of Elizabeth Bear out there and you want to sign a copy of The Chains That You Refuse, let me know and I'll send it to you. Next one was definitely 5 stars, and I can't wait to pick up the others in this series. This is Kate Chester with the series Hear No Evil in the book Missing. And this is one from Scholastic that I somehow missed out on as a kid. This is actually about a main protagonist who is deaf, and her best friend goes missing, and no one seems to care. Everyone thinks she just ran away, but she doesn't think so. In fact, she knows that her friend would not run away, and it is up to her to figure it out. So the main protagonist in this, Sarah, she was awesome. The writing was great. I loved the author's choice to really get into what it's like to be deaf. So our main character, Sarah, she gets mad when people talk around her but not to her, so that she can read their lips or so that they'll sign to her. You know, she gets aggravated because she's not being included in the conversation. There are specific cues in the book where it shows you, okay, this person is speaking now and this person is using ASL now, and little things like that. It was just a tremendously fun book. Like I said, kind of a mystery as far as what's going on, where her friend went, and I had a great time with it. This is actually book 2 in the series apparently, but I fully intend to pick up the rest of them. Kudos to Kate Chester for giving representation to the deaf community, especially back in the 90s? Yeah, 96. So kudos to you, Kate Chester. Fully intend to pick up your other books. 5 stars. Pick it up if you're interested in YA. Next up is the collection Your Body Is Not Your Body, and this was edited, I believe, by Alex Woodrow. This one I intend to do a review this month because this month is LGBTQ plus Pride Month, and this is a book within that realm. So I'm going to do a separate review on this one. Not going to talk about it a lot here. I'm sitting somewhere at a 3.5 to 4 stars, and that's all I'm going to say for now. Wait for the review coming up. Next up was Ed Lee with Monstrosity. And this is my first Edward Lee in quite a while, actually. I read this book probably 10 years ago and kind of somewhat remembered it. Went on and picked it up just because it was there, and I wanted to see if I enjoyed it again as much as I did before. It's typical Edward Lee fashion. Things are very gory, very gruesome, very gross, lots of sex, everything is gratuitous and over the top. Not very well written, but somehow still very enjoyable. 3.5 stars at the end of the day. He definitely has better, but this is a good introduction to Lee, if you will. Alright, after that I got into another anthology. This is Terrible Cherubs. And this was just a super cool collection. Really surprised me. Did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did, but this is one of those rare collections where it felt like every story really brought something to the table. I'll probably talk a little more in depth about it in a future video, but it was 5 stars. If you're looking for a sort of horror slash somewhat fantasy focused Collection, then this is a fantastic one to pick up. Alright, first audiobook for the month was Best of the Best Horror, edited by Ellen Dotlow. And this was actually a re-listen for me, if you will. I listened to it a few years ago. This was 4 stars again. There are a couple of stories in here that just don't really work for me. They were kind of letdowns, which is especially disappointing because it's supposed to be the best of the best horror. That said, there are a couple others that I very much enjoy. The narrations overall are pretty solid, and this is a good one if you want a pretty decent mix of horror stories. Now, one that I am going to suggest is a new zombie novel. This is Naomi Holt with Chew, Season 1. And Season 2 is already on pre-order. I already have it pre-ordered because this was 5 stars for me. I loved it. First of all, let's take a moment to appreciate that friggin' awesome cover. If that does not pull you in and make you interested in this book, then you are not the right person for this book at all. If, however, that looks interesting to you, then do yourself a favor, pick it up. It's like $2. It's a super quick read, but it is a blast. It's a great, great zombie novel. And this was one of those serialized things where she did it online, and now she's finally putting it in full publication. So very excited for the next one. It really seems to bring something a little different to the zombie genre. And for a while there, I know a lot of people were burnt out on it. But this, I think, is a really great one if you want to start dipping your toes back into the zombie subgenre. So 5 stars, check it out. Chew by Naomi Holt. Next one, it didn't work out so well for me. This was G. Allen Wilbanks with Deadly 7. And I was excited for this one. It was another pre-order of mine. It's a very short one. This is sort of a collection of interconnected short stories based on the 7 deadly sins. They all meet together, these 7 demons who are supposed to represent the 7 deadly sins, and basically get a pep talk from the big boss, and then you get little stories, little anecdotes of them trying to collect souls. And it really just felt very incomplete. It felt like a snippet of a novel or a story, but that was really it. So it didn't satisfy my craving for what I wanted. That said, it was quick. It was still somewhat entertaining, and it did have some really awesome illustrations. I gave it 2.5 stars at the end of the day. All right. This one, thanks to my lovely sibling, was my next one. This is Dan Simmons with Summer of Night. And I always take an opportunity to show this one off because of the step back cover, which is just friggin' awesome. This is a 600-pager, and man, Dan Simmons, he's an excellent author, but just drags on. To give you an idea, on Goodreads, one of my last updates was that I was 300 pages in, halfway into the book. Enjoyed it other than an odd number of repetitions, but I still didn't know what the book was about. And it takes the full 600 pages before you really get what's going on, you know? And the ending was a bit lackluster. That said, it definitely gives you that sort of nostalgic feel that people know and love and crave from books like Boy's Life, or even It, for that matter, first portion of it. It left me wanting, not that I wanted more, because at 600 pages, I definitely didn't want more when it was done, but I wanted... I don't know, it didn't hit the craving that I had necessarily. When it was 4 stars, it was good, but odd number of repetitions and overly lengthy. and somehow I wanted more of something and less of a lot of this, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense, but 4 stars, pick it up. It is apparently part of a series that are somewhat loosely connected, and I do intend to read the next one just to see what it's all about. Next one is a super short one. This is Last Train Out by DJ Fitzsimmons. It was 1 star for me. The story just didn't work. At a certain point, it really fell apart, and this is pretty much a short story to begin with, not even quite a novella, so it needs work. It's 1 star. I can't recommend it the way it is now. The next one was a big disappointment for me. This is one that I asked you folks about on how to talk about the book and talk to the author, if you will. This is one that has just such a cool cover. I was really excited for it. I pre-ordered it on Kickstarter, actually, and then talked to the author, and he offered, a copy in advance. But this is Daniel Jones with Hydra's Wake, and the cover is just so cool, man. And the most exciting part about this for me is that I did get a super cool bookmark with the cover on it, as well as some stickers and that. But man, the book just didn't work for me. The writing needs work. It was, they say show don't tell. This was all tell and no show. He did this, 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 he looked at this, he did that. The writing needs work, that's all I can say. And other people seem to be enjoying it. Personally, with the large number of books that I read, I can't recommend it in its current form. It feels like a rough draft. So, despite the awesome cover, it was a 1 star for me as it is now. And dang it, man, my 3rd 1 star in a row. This was my next audiobook for the month. This is R. Patrick Gates with Nowhere to Hide. The narration was horrible. The story was horrible. And I'm not going to talk much else about it. 1 star. Let's move on. Okay, this was a very odd duck. This is Connie Willis with Lincoln's Dreams. And this is billed as science fiction, but it's just so bizarre. It's fairly short, again about 230 pages. This is about a man who does research for a writer of historical novels, and he meets a woman that seems to be having the dreams of Robert E. Lee. And it's very bizarre, very allegorical at the end of the day. I really didn't know how to rate it. There are certain parts that I just didn't care for and that seemed very slow-paced, but it was such an interesting book that in the end it did win me over. I'd be hard-pressed to suggest it to people because I think it's going to take a very particular person to enjoy this book. I can see many of you reading this book, getting a short ways in and tossing it to the side because you're like, what the heck am I reading? Why am I reading about this lady and her random dreams of the Civil War, But for me, it was 4 stars. It did win me over in the end, but it took a while to get there. So, very strange book, but I kind of dig it. Next one is Of Fire and Stars, edited by S.O. Green. And this was actually my 2nd LGBTQ plus book of the month. Didn't even realize it until I started reading it. So I am going to be talking about this in a dual review with Your Body Is Not Your Body, sort of in honor of Pride Month. So be looking out for the review for that. But this one was 5 stars, awesome collection of fantasy, and I'm going to talk about it more in that review. Alright, I'm still trying to get more poetry into my reading, so I did read one poetry collection that was Long Line of Elk by Steve Saroff. And this is one that I got for free on Amazon. Didn't expect a whole lot, but surprisingly I very much enjoyed it. Now there are some issues with formatting and editing. later in the book in particular, one where there appears to be a poem that's missing entirely and another one was just copied in place, and then there are some lines of dialogue where things are copied, that sort of thing. That said, the poetry overall was great. Very much enjoyed it. I fully intend to purchase a physical copy of this one because I want it on my shelf. I want to be able to pick it up and read it from time to time and enjoy it. Steve Seraf very much impressed me with this one. 5 stars. In regards to poetry, it's up there in my, my top 10, I'd say. Alright, jumping to the next one. This was another short story collection. This by Stephen Jenkins, titled Spine. Has a very spooky cover, if you will. Overall, these stories were okay. Nothing too impressive here. It was just okay. So 2.5 stars. If you can pick it up for free or pick it up for $1 and you just want a quick couple horror reads, something simple, this might be for you, but there are better out there. Alright, my final audiobook of the month was Alien Out of the Shadows by Tim Levin, and this one is another 5-star for me. This one of all of them, typically I say that audiobooks count. This one doesn't feel like an audiobook. This one feels like you are listening to a movie. So, up to you guys. You tell me what you think. Andrew from It Came From the Page, I know he has listened to this one. So, does this count? I don't know. Normally audiobooks do. This one really feels like a production more than anything, but it was 5 stars regardless. If you were a fan of Alien, fan of science fiction or science fiction horror, this is a great one to put on and listen to. Star-studded cast, and they did a tremendous job with it. Alright, this is one that I picked up recently, Jamie the Red by Gordon Dixon, and I was excited to get into it, but again, much like Spine, in this case it was fantasy, but it was just okay. What bothered me most about it is you almost had to read it as if it were short stories because there was no real timeline, You would finish a chapter and the next chapter takes place 11 years later where all this stuff happened and they're just like, oh yeah, this stuff happened and you'll catch up on the rest later. So that really bothered me. Eventually I had to read it as if it were just a series of short stories about this character. Like I said, it was okay, but nothing too exciting really. So 2.5 stars. Unfortunately, it just didn't do it for me. It's got a great cover though. So yeah. Alright. After that, I got into Keelan Patrick Burke with Sour Candy. And I've heard a lot about this. Didn't know what to expect going in. It is short, really packs a lot of punch. There's a lot of depth to it that I wouldn't expect, and a lot to be explored there if he wanted to continue hinting at whatever the heck it is that's going on in this. But this is a great one. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it. It's short enough that I could easily ruin something if I did, but if you're looking for a quick novella, horror novella, and you really want something that is going to mess with you, pick up Sour Candy. Okay, next one, again, not going to talk a lot about it. I don't know why, but I picked up the Creepypasta Collection. And creepypastas are supposed to be the sort of internet age version of campfire stories, myths and legends like you would see in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This one, though, just didn't work for me. It was 2 stars, very lackluster. Right, yeah. This one, oh boy. Michael Lemo with Deep in the Darkness. I kind of want to talk about this one in a review because it's just so all over the place. So I've said it for a few of these books, but look for this one in the review because I want to talk about it. I've got a lot to say about that one. not necessarily good. And then the final book that I finished for the month is Michael Spradlin with Menace from the Deep, which is book 1 of the Killer Species series. And I didn't realize that this was actually an interconnected series. I won't be continuing. This didn't work for me. It was 2 stars. I read it in pages honor because it had the giant alligator. But man, this one, it just didn't do it for me at all. There was this very over-the-top, ridiculous villain who feels like he came straight out of a superhero novel. I felt like it was kind of insulting the intelligence of the younger audience that it was meant for, honestly. And I feel that I can say that because I read a lot of YA and a lot of children's horror and things like that. So this one, it was a pass. If you're out there and you're interested, 2 stars. Didn't do it. Wasn't a great end of the month, but whatever. But yeah, so that'll do it. 23 books, 22 if you don't count the alien one. Still way too much. I gotta slow down. Yeah, I don't know. That's it. I don't know what else to say, guys. The Popeye thing, you know? I am what I am, and that's all that I am, right? So, how did the month go for you guys? I've started my next books for June. Very excited about them. If you have not checked out my TBR, check that video out. And let me know down below how the month of May went for you. That's all. Stay safe. Drink great coffee. Cheers.